So, it's back. After being free from this shit stain in the underwear of television for 5 glorious weeks, I'm gonna need to be extremely high to get through this one. Luckily, I think I have just the thing for that. Okay, let's return, God help us, to Batwoman. Episode 17, A Narrow Escape, begins with Kate playing video games, looking like she doesn't have a care in the world when she's supposed to be dealing with the fallout, consequences, and PTSD of committing murder. Now, this is just a dream sequence. But be honest. Just for a second, you thought it was real, didn't you? Because Kate places no value on human life. She's proved that over and over. So her not giving a rat's ass about being a murderer and just laughing the whole thing off, sadly, would be completely in character for her. But then Alice walks in and they start playing together and we realize what's going on. She thanks Kate for never giving up on her and Kate says she was worth it. And of course, this is just a hallucination that Alice wants to stay in because in reality, she's strapped to a chair in Arkham being given horrific and frankly incredibly inhumane shock treatment. I'd like to state for the record that in the previous episode, Alice made it very clear to Kate how cruel and inhumane the medical staff at Arkham was, and then Kate not only had Alice locked up in Arkham, along with all the other patients, at least some of whom surely don't deserve to be treated like this, but Kate has apparently done exactly jack shit to bring said inhumane medical practices to the attention of the proper authorities. Because Kate Kane is... well, she's just a bitch, isn't she? Cut to Batwoman chasing down a criminal who robbed a jewelry store or something. Not that it matters, because the second she catches him and takes the stuff he stole, she just lets him go free. They couldn't make it one episode. They couldn't even get through 2 scenes before having Kate reset back to 0. After they just did a storyline that, by the standards of this show, was monumental in the sense that Kate finally seemed to learn something about the dangers and consequences of letting criminals go free instead of capturing them, and going so far as to capture and incarcerate her own sister, who she'd let go free countless times in the past, Kate is already reverting to form. Oh, you robbed a jewelry store? Nah, just promise not to do it again, okay? Now run along, you little scamp. Jesus Christ, this character is infuriating. Now, she does eventually take this guy down, but only after he had the audacity to try to sneak attack her from behind after she let him go. So it wasn't his robbery and law-breaking she had a problem with, it was his offense against her. That was the real crime. We're less than 3 minutes in. So she knocks him down a flight of stairs, nearly breaks his neck, he's out cold, not moving, but Kate momentarily remembers that murder is bad, so she descends from her golden pedestal just long enough to make sure this man is still alive. She also has another anxiety attack, and I am legit shocked the writers have allowed that to still be a thing. The anxiety makes Kate look somewhat more human, which is good, but I'm sorry, I no longer give a shit. You've made this character so reprehensible for so long now, there's no saving her. She's done. You can't fix her. You can't return her at the store and get your money back. It's over. You dug this character's grave, and now she's stuck in there. The end. Flash forward to 1 week later. A police officer wakes up in a car with a bomb strapped to his chest, and a recorded message that tells him that he can disarm the bomb by pushing the yellow button, but by doing so, he'll trigger another bomb to go off somewhere else. So he can save himself, or he can save all the innocent people in the blast radius of the second bomb. So yes, these contemptible hacks are now ripping off plot points from The Dark Knight. and it's not nearly the most offensive thing that happens in this episode. So because this cop is a man, and thus a piece of shit by default, he immediately hits the yellow button to save himself. Doesn't take even 1 second to consider all the Gotham citizens who will die horribly if he does this. So all those innocent people who were in that bank where the second bomb was located, they dead. And the episode dwells on that for all of 5 seconds, completely glossing over the consequences of his decision to save himself, which kind of defeats the purpose of doing a storyline like this in the first place. But hey, welcome to Batwoman, where good storylines go to die. Cut to the illegal underground abortion clinic where Batwoman is being stretchered in. Mary has a full medical staff working at this illegal clinic all of a sudden. For 16 episodes, it was just her, but now there's tons of people working there. Because. And this chick is actually a Batwoman cosplayer who's been trying to fight crime while pretending to be Batwoman because the real Batwoman has been MIA for the last 7 days. So the show would have us believe that because Batwoman hasn't been seen for 1 week, crime in Gotham City has already shot through the roof. So vital to Gotham's survival is Batwoman that if she's gone for a matter of days, the city devolves into chaos. Hell, it's technically been less than 7 days if you think about it, because this had to be enough time for Batwoman's absence to be felt long enough for all the criminals in the city to get cocky, crime to go back on the rise, Gotham citizens to notice that Batwoman has disappeared, for this girl to make herself a Batwoman cosplay suit and be injured in her attempts to save someone from a building collapse or whatever, and be brought into Mary's illegal clinic, which according to Mary is already the 2nd time this has happened this week. All that happened in 7 days. It's as if the writers are trying to make up for lost time, taking the 5 weeks they were off the air and cramming 5 weeks worth of stupid into 1 episode. That's where we are now, and we're not even at the 10-minute mark yet. I am gonna need a lot more internet gas. So this chick asks Mary if she knows where Batwoman is, and Mary's like, trust me, I'm the last person Batwoman would ever confide in. Okay, Mary, 2 things here. 1, Kate has a secret identity. Get the f*** over it already. 2, given how absolutely morally repugnant and despicable Kate is, have you ever considered that her not trusting you with her secret is a sign that you're just too good for her? Think about it. Cut to Kate crashing on her own couch. I guess she got her own apartment off screen at some point. Julia walks in, and after some coaxing, Kate does manage to begrudgingly thank Julia for taking care of her this past week, and getting Kate to show actual gratitude to another human being is honestly painful to watch. You can almost smell the contempt she feels for having to say this. So, as quickly as she possibly can, Kate turns the conversation back to herself. She admits that she crossed a line when she murdered Cartwright, and now, believe it or not, she's worried that she'll screw up again. And if you thought getting Kate to show gratitude was tough, getting her to admit fallibility is like pulling teeth. And though it is immensely satisfying to see her doing this, don't get used to it, because by the end of the episode, they're gonna take it all back and then some. Then Julia tells her that there's a mad bomber out there, so screw your anxiety and let's get to work. Cut to Arkham, where Mouse and Alice are having a group therapy session with a bunch of inmates, consisting of, among other people, Magpie. Weren't you just chomping at the bit to see that scintillating character make a triumphant return? So Mouse is unburdening himself, saying that his dad hid him away from the world to make himself more comfortable, and the moment he stopped caring if his dad was comfortable was the moment he became free. Mouse has now come to view Arkham as a sanctuary where Alice's family can't hurt them anymore, so I guess he's just okay with the inhuman shock treatments now. But Alice is annoyed that he's participating in this. I'm annoyed that we're dignifying that embarrassment of a character by even mentioning him again, but we all get a new thing to be annoyed about when Tommy Elliott walks in. Tommy sits down with everyone, and he's got a shank stuffed into his shoe. A really big one, too, like bigger than this pen here. And it's not hidden or anything either. It's just hanging out of his tiny little hospital shoe, so plain as day it's downright comical. And somehow, no one but Alice even notices this. So Tommy starts talking about Bruce Wayne, and this just makes him go nuts. And as if on cue, all the other inmates in the room just go nuts! And I guess Alice absorbs the crazy to power herself like Superman absorbs light from Earth's yellow sun, because this gives her a great idea. Cut to somewhere else where the lawyer of Reggie, that's the guy who was framed for the murder of Lucius Fox, and was then killed himself by a sniper once he was released from jail, is talking about how he's going to get justice for Reggie, and the Mad Bomber, or the Detonator as we're calling him, is watching him on the news while he builds a new bomb vest. Cut to Sophie and Julia at the safe house where they're piecing together everything they know about the sniper, Reggie, the crows, the Lucius Fox murder, and how it all ties together. While they do this, Sophie is standing in front of a window with the curtains open, just 7 days after a hit was put on her and she was almost killed by a sniper. You figure it out. Anyway, utilizing more honest-to-God detective work than we've ever seen Kate do, the two of them discover a trail here. Money was wired into the sniper's bank account the day Reggie was exonerated, and that's the same bank the Detonator just blew up. So they're starting to follow the breadcrumbs, Julia jumps on the computer to find out more, and then Sophie checks her out. So they're already teasing a new hookup, even though it can't be more than a matter of days since Sophie supposedly had her heart broken by Batwoman, while also supposedly still being in love with Kate. But screw continuity and storylines that just happened, because Sophie gets to get laid, am I right? Back at the Batcave, Luke is working out with a punching bag. This is easily the most masculine thing they've let the poor bastard do in 17 episodes, but don't be fooled. Much like with Kate acting like an actual human being, it won't last very long. He's all worked up about the Reggie situation. Kate suggests that he talk about it, momentarily showing some small degree of empathy for another person, but again, it's just a fluke, it won't last. Luke doesn't want to talk about it, and instead asks Kate if she found anything on Cartwright yet, and Kate doesn't want to talk about that, so she lies again and changes the subject to the Detonator Case. We cut back and forth between these two and Jacob addressing the crows about the detonator. He targets people the public views as heroes and tries to make them prove that they're not the heroes everyone thinks they are. This is an old case, so Bruce had tons of files on this guy. And as Luke tells us, Batman, the world's greatest detective, was obsessed with catching the detonator, but the trail went cold and he never found him, and you already know what's about to happen, don't you? I wrote in my notes here, Kate is about to catch him hilariously easily, right? Before I even finish typing that, Kate has figured out who the detonator is. She asks one question, just one question about the suspects in the files, and they instantly find him. They make it look so pathetically easy that it's fucking sad, because you know they only did this to make Kate look better than Bruce by comparison, and not even for the only time in this episode, by the way. And sure enough, Kate goes to find this man and gets a confession out of him within seconds. But then it turns out that while she did have the right suspect, the real detonator was actually this guy's father, who's been dead for 7 years. Meaning that the new detonator is a copycat, so this entire plot point was a dead end and only existed at all so Kate could effortlessly solve a case that Bruce never could and make Bruce look like the inferior detective retroactively. Because these writers are the most petty assholes on Earth. By the way, Luke mentions that the Batsuit is so awesome that it can resist explosions powerful enough to blast people's limbs off and topple entire buildings. Just in case you were worried about Kate being in any danger whatsoever from a mad bomber, well, forget about it. Because this is Batwoman, baby, and we don't need stupid things like tension or drama or life and death stakes. I mean, what do you think this is? A TV show? But that doesn't matter either, because Kate doesn't even wear the suit. She has another anxiety attack when she sees it, so she figures, screw it. All women are indestructible on this show anyway, so I'll just go hunt this asshole down as myself. And I'll even give him my real name when I confront him, because secret identities can my Also, Luke guesses that Kate has not been looking for Cartwright this whole time, and once again, she just avoids the whole thing and f***s off. Speaking of f***ing off, that's what this show can do. We cut back to Alice as she passes Tommy Elliott in the hallway, and she's like, "Hey Tommy, you'll never be Bruce Wayne. You're just a Bruce Wayne wannabe." Burn? And I guess because Tommy is 5 years old, this throws him into such a tantrum that he flies off the handle, whips out that shank, and stabs Alice in the gut with it. Because she called him a wannabe. What age demographic are the writers making this show for? I thought it was tween-age girls, but frankly, any self-respecting teenager with measurable brain activity would be way too sophisticated to think this shit was any good. And by the way, don't worry about Alice, because shrugging off getting stabbed in the gut runs in the family. She's completely fine the next time we see her. So if that scene made you feel excitement, or dread, or anxiety, or any kind of strong emotions at all, remember that the writers want you to feel stupid for doing so, because having utter contempt for their audience is the only reason why they'd write it that way. And this is now the 3rd time they've done it. So if you're still falling for it at this point, this is really on you. So yeah, a scant few minutes later, Alice walks back into the common room to meet up with Mouse, and she doesn't have massive blood loss or internal injuries or anything. She yanks out her stitches and somehow does not immediately bleed out from the grievous abdominal wound she received just minutes earlier, and then reveals that she pulled the shank Tommy stabbed her with out of her stomach and kept it. Because the medical staff didn't take that from her? Because the security staff didn't take it for safekeeping and dispose of it? Because no one thought to frisk Alice in the infirmary to make sure she didn't have it on her? Because not one person on this entire staff of brain-dead chuckle-f***s noticed or even cared that the deadly weapon Alice was stabbed with mysteriously went missing and has been unaccounted for ever since? Okay. Then we cut back to the lawyer guy as he wakes up in his car strapped to another bomb. But he's a little smarter than that first guy was, because instead of either dooming himself or many other people to certain death by explosion, he just calls for help because the detonator left him his phone. Because the detonator is an idiot. So the crows quickly arrive to help him, and because the writers are allowing the crows to be competent this week, Jacob immediately orders his people to start evacuating everyone in a 1-mile radius. You'd think that in a major metropolitan area like this, such a thing would take hours at the very least, but you'd be wrong. They pull this off in a matter of minutes. Somehow. And also, they figured out the general area where the second bomb is likely to be. But this is the area where Mary's secret illegal clinic is. So everyone in the clinic clears out. The clinic is usually empty, but by complete coincidence, I'm sure, this was the first day when the clinic was absolutely packed with patients and the new medical staff that just materialized out of thin air this week, because the plot says so. Some of the patients can't be moved, Mary's not leaving them, the Batwoman cosplayer stays to help, and Kate is racing to the place to get Mary out of there, but she doesn't make it before the bomb goes off. But don't worry, that doesn't matter either. Because Mary survived the blast. She's totally fine, not even injured. The windows were blown out, some walls might have caved in, and some cabinets fell over, but Mary's not even fazed. There was no reason to be concerned about her in any way. So the lesson here is don't bother worrying about anybody ever, because you get plot armor, and you get plot armor. Everybody gets plot armor! Some wreckage fell on top of the cosplayer, so Mary and Kate have to lift it off her. But at the sight of the cosplay batsuit, Kate gets another anxiety attack and she has to leave the room. And just like that, from out of the blue, Mary suddenly decides that she's had enough of this, marches out into the hallway, and tells Kate that she knows Kate is Batwoman. She then proceeds to give one of the biggest bullshit speeches in the history of this show, and that is saying something. She couldn't believe that she didn't figure it out sooner, because of course Batwoman is the same person who has done so many amazing things that Mary can't even count them all. Of course Batwoman is the same person who taught Mary to drive even though she couldn't drive herself and hunted down the guy who ditched Mary at the prom and locked him in a urinal. Of course Batwoman is the person that Mary has looked up to her entire life! It's as if the writers were having a contest to see how much bullshit you could pack into a single monologue. And I'm positive the writer of this episode won that contest because, holy crap! So Mary has looked up to Kate her whole life when she's only known Kate for half her life or less? You want to explain that to me? No? Why am I not surprised? Also, Mary has this whole list of amazing, cool, awesome, incredible things that Kate did for her when they were growing up. Even though Mary previously stated that Kate had always treated her like she didn't exist. Even though Kate had spent most of the previous 16 episodes blowing Mary off unless she needed her for something. Even though it's been a huge part of Mary's arc that Kate had never really made time for her, never treated her like a sister, and Mary being so heartbroken about this that she was literally reduced to tears at one point. But now it turns out that was all horseshit because the writers decided to smash the retcon button until their fingers bleed and make it so that Kate is not only a better detective than Batman, she's also the latest inductee of the Big Sister Hall of Fame! Unbelievable. These clowns don't give one single shit about what they're writing. They take no pride in what they do as professionals. Absolutely none. We've reached a point where there is no reason whatsoever to get invested in anything that happens on this show. Any kind of character development, major plot point, minor plot point, doesn't matter. Because odds are that by the next f***ing episode, it'll just be retconned into oblivion and the writers won't even remember it anymore because saying these frauds have the attention span of a goldfish is an insult to f***ing goldfish! And then to top it off, Mary says that she's not asking Kate to be a hero. She's just asking Kate to keep going. But remember what Oliver said when he died? The real heroes are the ones who keep going? Yeah. As far as the writers are concerned, be a hero, keep going, it's the same thing. It's all about just emotionally validating Kate, praising her, telling her how awesome she is, because Kate was finally starting to doubt herself and question some of the appalling decisions she's made, and God forbid Kate become an actual character, so that stops, and it stops now. I had 5 weeks without this show in my life. I was so much happier then. What happened? Back at Arkham, Mouse turns the tables on his doctors, because even though he's an incredibly dangerous psychopathic killer, they didn't bother to restrain him so he couldn't be a danger to them when they were transferring him to and from the shock treatment chair, or even have a guard standing by in case he got violent, as he very often does. He knocks out one of them and kills the other one with the shank, and see if you can guess where that's going. It shouldn't take you more than one guess. Meanwhile, Sophie and Julia go to Luke and show him everything they've figured out about the sniper case. He lived at an address that just got blown up. Looks like the Detonator copycat hired the sniper to kill Reggie and then used the bombs to cover the trail. Seems to me that this could have been done a lot more discreetly and the stuff with the bombs just drew needless attention to the whole thing, but what do I know? Anyone with any knowledge of the Lucius Fox murder has now been killed. This has to be someone familiar with the original Detonator case, and this leads them to a guy named Miguel Robles, a former cop who is now head of the Crow's homicide division. Now, why the f*** a private security firm has a homicide division, I couldn't tell you. But that's what they're saying. He was also the first Crow on the scene when Lucius was killed, so this is the guy. Apparently, Robles is that shifty-looking asshole who just started appearing in like the last 2 episodes and made it a point to act as suspicious as humanly possible when Jacob started looking into this. So this means that my prediction about Sophie's husband being the real killer was wrong. But the thing is, the only reason I didn't think it was Robles in the first place was because he was acting so suspicious that I figured he must be a red herring because making him the killer would have been the laziest thing the writers could possibly do. I actually gave them slightly more credit than that. So congratulations, Batwoman writers, for being so goddamn terrible at your jobs that you were somehow able to sink below even my expectations. And that is quite an accomplishment, because you have to work really, really damn hard to be that bad at something. I mean, hell, statistically speaking, they should have written a better storyline by accident at this point. So Robles attacks Jacob in a stairwell, and he wakes up wearing a bomb vest in his office, not in a car like the others, because the plot had to make it easy for Sophie and Julia to find him, which they do so easily it's not even worth showing and happens off-screen. Then Kate puts the batsuit back on and runs Robles down on the Batcycle. She takes him to the second bomb that he set up in the Wayne Enterprises parking garage, but the only way to disarm it is for the other bomb to go off. So then Luke shows up with a gun, and he's wearing a hoodie now, that's how you know he's serious, And Luke has an app on his phone that puts Wayne Tower into lockdown mode because, as it happens, Lucius had planned for just this sort of occasion. So the only people getting blown up by this bomb will be them. Robles is panicking now, so Luke finally gets some answers out of him. Tommy Elliot wanted some journal that Lucius kept, which I'm pretty sure has never even been mentioned before, and he paid Robles $10,000 to get it. Robles only intended to rough him up, but when Lucius didn't fold like an accordion, Robles threatened Luke, which set Lucius off, there was a fight, Lucius got shot accidentally, and everything else was just Robles covering his tracks. And holy shit, that was a hell of a lot of buildup and one hell of a convoluted web just to ultimately pin the blame on the one-dimensionally evil rich white guy who's been locked up in Arkham since the end of episode 3. It's like they just got bored with this subplot and wanted to get it over with as quickly as possible so they could just move on and forget about it. I mean, mother of God! I want to say the writers couldn't have come up with a lamer conclusion to this story if they tried, but frankly, they'd have to try pretty goddamn hard to come up with an ending this lame in the first place. So Luke knocks Robles out, and he's seriously considering killing the guy, while Kate has more anxiety and has to take her cowl off. And the only way she can think to stop Luke from pulling the trigger is finally blurting out that she killed Cartwright and didn't want to suit up again because she felt like a fraud. You are a fraud, Kate. You're a huge, huge fraud. And not just for this. There's a lengthy list of reasons, but I'm not going to read them off again right now because this video is too long as it is. So Kate tells Luke not to let his anger turn him into something he's not, and Kate's not speaking from experience here because in her case, she was a piece of shit who just let her anger turn her into a bigger piece of shit. Long story short, Luke decides not to kill him. Then Kate radios Julia and tells her to blow the second bomb. Before her and Luke have gotten to safety, but they're out of time so there's no choice. They're still in the process of carrying Robles away. They can't be more than 20 or 30 feet from the bomb when it goes off. They have no cover at all, and even though these bombs were previously shown to be powerful enough to destroy a bank, all three of them are miraculously, completely uninjured. How? How? Yes, Kate had the batsuit on, but she took the cowl off, so her head wasn't protected. And Luke was in street clothes, for Christ's sake. He's got no protection at all, and he's not even f***ing singed! Are you kidding me? This is a joke. This entire show from minute one has been a goddamn farce. How can anyone, from the producers, the writers, the actors, the network executives, the fans, if there are any even still watching, all the way down to the people on Tumblr who only download the show to make GIFs about it, possibly take this shit seriously? This is a comedy of errors. We are watching the Room of superhero shows, something that only lets you hold on to your sanity if you watch it ironically. I can feel my brain cells dying even as I sit here, and I haven't even gotten to the worst part yet. So Sophie's officially reinstated in the Crows. Just like that, they've magically cleaned out all the corruption off screen, and Jacob is putting her in charge of a new strike team, even though when Sophie was running the Crows in his absence, she couldn't have shit the bed harder if she'd had explosive diarrhea, and has proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that she's horribly ill-suited for command. There's another retcon right there. But Sophie thinks that job's a little too big for one person and she needs a partner. And then Julia waltzes in because her agency just informed her that she's been recruited to a Crows strike team. Oh yeah, because that makes sense. British intelligence agencies let their operatives be stolen by American private security firms without even telling them afterward all the time. You're telling me that the Crows have more pull than the British government? What the hell is going on? Okay, let's talk about the worst part. Because I'm pretty close to losing it and I just want to get out of here. Kate is basking in her own glory, reveling in how the media is showering Batwoman with praise now that she's back after disappearing for a week. Luke walks in and thanks her for convincing him not to kill Cartwright. Kate admits that, and this is Kate at her most ludicrously narcissistic, she admits that she didn't tell him that she killed Cartwright because she believes that he thinks Kate is an infallible, perfect hero who always does the right thing, always makes the right choice every single time, and she couldn't bear to see the look on his face when he realized that she was not the bestest ever. Because so arrogant, so self-absorbed is Kate, and so low is her opinion of Luke, that she thinks his entire world would shatter into a million pieces if he thought for 1 second that Kate was not a perfect paragon of amazingness. That's what they're saying. That's what Kate believes. Kate has been letting criminals go free no matter how many awful things they do, making horrible decision after horrible decision after horrible decision, has killed 2 people, has, through her own actions and inactions, caused the deaths of countless others, acting like a selfish, arrogant, self-obsessed, miserable excuse for a human being, generally just being such a mockery of a crime fighter that you have to wonder if this show hasn't secretly been a parody this whole time. And this is how she thinks people see her. And the most infuriating part about it is that in the context of the show, she's right. The other characters do see her that way. That's why she has that golden pedestal. Because she is woman, hear her roar, I guess. The lack of self-awareness on display in this scene is so baffling, I have trouble believing that it's even real. And now we finally arrive at the low point. Not just the low point of the episode, the low point of the series. I didn't think it could get worse. I thought, they've already done so much damage. They've ruined the show, ruined the character beyond repair. They've disrespected Batman's legacy at every turn. How could it get worse? Here's how. Luke says that he's not wrong. Kate really is as amazing as she just said she is. But Kate's like, I broke Batman's code. And Luke replies, you think you're the only one? Yeah. Brace yourselves. They are seriously about to do this. Luke says to her, why do you think the Joker hasn't been around in 5 years? He's not locked in Arkham, Kate. This is the entire series summed up in one line. They don't spell it out, but there is so much here that they're not saying because they don't have to. The implication is crystal clear. The ultimate meaning of this, what you could say the entire series has been building to, is the ultimate destruction of what Batman stands for. Is the woman who took it upon herself to take up Batman's legacy, and instead of honoring it, along with her team of writers, took a big steaming dump all over it. They are now telling us that Batman, the DC superhero most dedicated to justice, to upholding the law, who swore to never take a human life because he didn't want anyone to ever have to go through what happened to him, the character who has justice most intrinsically tied into who his character is, killed the Joker. And still, it gets worse. Because now you see why they're doing this. Not for any storytelling or character-related purpose. It's all down to sheer pettiness and spite. Again, they don't spell it out, but they're implying with this that the reason Batman disappeared 5 years ago is that he violated his own moral code. He took a life, and it broke him. Broke him so badly that he gave up. And now, here's Kate, who violated that same moral code, but it's not going to break her. Kate's not going anywhere. She's not going to let the abyss stare back at her like Bruce did. She's not going to give up like Bruce did. You know why? Because the real heroes are the ones who keep going. So, ultimately, the writers delegitimized Batman and everything he stands for, spit on his legacy, committed character assassination on him, the likes of which we haven't seen since Jake Skywalker, all just so Batwoman could look like the better superhero by comparison. I have had to suffer through a hell of a lot of trash over the course of reviewing this show, but this is the worst. This is far and away the most offensive thing Batwoman has ever done. I wanted to vomit watching this. The fact that I've committed myself to reviewing this entire season, or however many more episodes they have in the can, makes me sick. I want nothing more than to be done with this abomination, so I never have to dignify it with my attention ever again. Alright, let's wrap this up. Mary comes in raving about how cool Kate looks riding the Batcycle, and Luke doesn't know that Mary knows Kate is Batwoman now, so he's fumbling all over himself trying to make up some bullshit excuse about how she can't be, and Kate screws with him and makes him look stupid because we just did this big dramatic storyline about Luke finally confronting his father's killer, and God forbid the audience start to take him seriously, so just like that, Luke is back to being Kate's bitch. Back at Arkham, it looks like Alice is talking to the doctor that Mouse stabbed to death, but she's actually talking to Mouse, who has disguised himself with an ass mask of the doctor's face. Because somehow Alice was able to make a new ass mask to perfectly resemble the doctor's face with no equipment, no special tools of any kind. No, she made this ass mask with nothing but a shank and the thread her stitches were made from. Believe it or not, there was a time when this would have been the biggest load of bullshit in the episode. I miss those days. Anyway, from out of the blue, Alice has a change of heart. And seemingly, for no reason at all, she decides that she doesn't want to escape Arkham anymore. She thinks they should just hang out there for a while until the plot says that it's time for them to be back on the street. Does it make sense? Hell no. But neither does anything else in this 17-episode trash fire. And that's it. The episode's over. Thank God. I don't know what to say that I haven't said already. The rampant stupidity, the non-stop retcons, the vile, loathsome, unforgivable characters, the bastardization of canon, the desecration of Batman's legacy, the disgusting, maddening disrespect, not only for the source material, but for the audience. This is so reprehensible, so repugnant, so damaging to Batman and the Bat Family brand that I honestly don't know why Warner Brothers has not stepped in and put a stop to this yet. They bent over backwards to absolve Kate of being a murderer by just saying, it's okay, because Bruce killed someone too. So that moral code that Batman's whole character was based on for decades and decades means nothing. And you're not going to let this break you like he did, so it's all good. So they threw arguably the most iconic superhero of all time under the bus in the most insulting way imaginable just to let Kate off the hook for being a murderer instead of having her actually try to do something, anything, to redeem herself. Why is anyone still watching this travesty? I'm a critic. I have to watch it because this is what pays my rent. But just regular TV viewers? How can you possibly dignify Batwoman by giving it one more second of your time that you know in your heart it does not deserve? This is the worst show on television. This is the worst written TV show I have ever seen. I know I said that before, but it's even more true now. It's as if they're intentionally writing the most offensive show they possibly can just to piss people off. So why in the name of all that is good do you keep enabling them? Please ask yourselves that question before the next episode airs. Because you deserve better. And this show does not deserve you. If you enjoyed this Batwoman review, I've reviewed the entire season, so check out the playlist on the channel. Ding that bell icon and follow me on Twitter using the link in the description so you'll always know when I upload new videos. Comment your thoughts down below. Please give the video a like. That's very important in fending off the YouTube algorithm. Share it around, subscribe, make sure you're still subscribed because YouTube may have randomly unsubscribed you without you realizing it. And I'll be back with more very soon, because I'll be damned if this show is gonna break me. Until then, stay safe, wash your hands, and I'll see you next time.